So recently we did this stay over at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, and the room was in rough shape. Like, it was definitely in need of a refurbishment, let alone just a cleaning. And after our stay, we learned that, yeah, it's gonna be refurbished at some point in 2025. Thank goodness for that. But you know where else is due for a refurbishment, and it's gonna be happening at some point in 2025? The Treehouse Villas here at Disney Saratoga Springs Resort. And I'll tell you what, when we found out that little piece of information, it got us thinking, and I want to share some of those thoughts with you today. Of course, it's also checkout day, so welcome back to the channel, welcome to Disney Saratoga Springs Resorts, and welcome to checkout day here at the Treehouse Villas. It is a sad day because this is a pretty cool place. But we're going to tell you more about that here in a bit. I'm starting off my day this morning with an English muffin with some jam. Nothing fancy, but it's going to get the job done. Anyway, let me finish this, watch an episode of Bluey, and then we'll chat. Now, first things first, for those of you who want to hear more about our experience at Animal Kingdom Lodge, we've got some discussions on the channel. We posted them not too long ago, so I encourage you to go check those out, because I'm not going to get into details about that stay today. We're focusing on the tree houses. And we're going to cover everything that I think you need to know, but we're also doing it while we get ready to check out. So bear with me as we do a little bit of running around. All right, with that out of the way, let's talk about some basics. So you guys already know we're at Disney Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa, which the spa I don't think ever reopened after it closed in 2020. I don't know if they have any plans to reopen it. I've been checking back, I haven't heard anything. This is a Disney Vacation Club property, so the whole thing is DVC, but of course you don't have to be DVC to stay here. That's a common misconception. I know a lot of people have been talking about that in my comment sections on different discussions. You can pay cash to stay at Disney Vacation Club properties as well. There are of course ways that you can rent Disney Vacation Club points. We've talked about that before, so I'm just gonna breeze right past it today. This resort is in the Disney Springs area, which means it's super close to all of the dining and all of the fun that you can experience over at Disney Springs. Frankly, I think that this is a pretty good location if you're doing like a girls trip, or of course if you like to golf, because there's a golf course right here on property, or on the property of this resort as well. So there's a lot to offer here, even though it's not really everyone's favorite place to be. In fact, some people over the years have called it like the resort of last resorts, like the place you stay when nowhere else is available. And honestly, I didn't really like it at first, despite it being a home resort. But I think it's grown on me, you know? I think it is. Now this resort is a bigger resort. It's one of those sprawling resorts. So it's not really gonna be ideal for everyone, especially people who don't like the idea of having to do a little bit of a walk so that they can get to things like the pool or the quick service. And that's gonna be the case for the resort as a whole. It's especially gonna be the case if you're considering a stay at the Treehouse Villas, because the Treehouse Villas are a little bit more out of the way, at least compared to some of the other areas of Disney Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa. Though, I'll tell you what, I was actually surprised at how close the Treehouse Villas are to the resort, because you can walk from here right on over to Disney Saratoga Springs, even though you can also take a bus or a boat. So if you're like me and your initial thought was, I don't want to stay at the tree houses because they're like so out of the way, you might actually be surprised at how close they are. Because I mean, I was surprised. And we did a lot of walking back and forth between our treehouse, which is 7021, and the main building, which is known as the Springs. That's where you're gonna find your feature pool. It's also where you're gonna find your quick service and shopping. That's where the spa is located in the event that it ever reopens. That's also where you're gonna catch the bus to the theme parks, or you can also take the boat from there over to Disney Springs. So it's like the hub of the resort, you know? And it's not too far away, though I definitely wouldn't describe it as close. Okay, how are we looking? I think that'll get the job done. All right, now let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you need to know about the tree houses, specifically in terms of logistics. So of course, Saratoga Springs has all the standard Disney Vacation Club rooms that you've come to expect from a DVC property. But the tree houses are unique. They are, of course, a category all their own. They are 3-bedroom and can sleep 9 with 1 baby, so technically 10. But you need to know a few things. Like, for example, 3 of you are sleeping out in the living room on pull-out sofa and chair, and then in one of the rooms, it's not an actual like bedroom for 2. I mean, it is a bedroom for 2, but it's bunk beds, and they will sleep a full-size adult, you know, but is that going to be right for every adult in your party? Probably not. So that's just something to keep in mind. Of course, if you want to get a good look at this entire treehouse, we did a tour on check-in day, so I encourage you to go check that out. I'll tell you what though, it is an impressive amount of space here in this treehouse villa. And I do think that you can pull off 9 people, 1 baby in here, though your organization is gonna have to be on point, which is always gonna be the case when you travel with a large group. But I do think that it's worth mentioning because while we do feel like there's plenty of room in here to function as a group of 9, it can get really crowded really quickly if you're not taking the time to organize, maybe reorganize some cabinets so you can tuck some things away in the kitchen. You know, if you're one of those families who doesn't want to use drawers and closets, it's gonna get tight really quick in here. So I do think that it's just worth mentioning, you know, if you're gonna stay in a treehouse villa with a larger family, prepare yourself to do that organization ahead of time or bring with you what you need in order to stay organized. Prepare yourself to maybe tidy up at the end of every day. I know that not everyone wants to dedicate time when they're vacationing to tidying things up, but you know, first of all, if there's 9 of you in here, it shouldn't take long at all. Like just a couple minutes at the end of every day. And it is gonna make all the difference because if you aren't taking that time, this place is gonna get overwhelming and stressful really, really quick. We noticed that even with 4 of us in here. Not that it was like overwhelming or anything, but even though there weren't that many of us in here, even though it wasn't that much stuff, it did get crowded quick, at least in some areas. So just prepare yourself for that ahead of your stay and I think you'll be good. But all right, I gotta get a few things tidied up myself so that we can gear up for checkout. Of course, I wanna take you outside, show you some things. The sun has come up, so we'll be able to do that soon, but let me get myself situated and then we'll continue on with our day. All right, now that I have most of my stuff packed up and ready to go, I'm gonna make a run down to the Jeep. You wanna go with me? I'll show you the parking situation as well as the boat, because that boat is one of the transportation options that you can use to get pretty much everywhere. We'll also look at a bus stop too, and that'll make things a little bit easier when we actually take off. You know, one less trip to the Jeep, or I should say, the trip to the Jeep that we make won't require so much heavy lifting. Also, nice deck. I think I showed this to you on check-in day. It is really lovely. Lots of stairs to get up there. They do have some accessible tree houses as well though. I don't know exactly where they are, but I don't know, if we see one, I'll point it out. It's just a ramp as opposed to stairs, not on that angle. Easy to access ramp. Can you imagine though, if it was like basically a slide? Never get up there, but get down pretty quick. All right, so our tree house is down that way. And here's where we're parked, so not too far from where we're staying, though it isn't like in the immediate vicinity. Honestly though, not too bad a distance, certainly nothing compared to Boardwalk or Grand Floridian. Whew, that was a hike. But okay, now that we have our first round of bags in the Jeep, let's take a look at the parking situation so you have a better idea of what to expect if you're going to be parking here. So of course, Harley's parked here in a compact spot because she fits rather nicely. They do have other spots as well. The spots aren't huge though, so that's something to be aware of if you're going to be driving in with a really big vehicle, and you can't stick out too far because the buses come down this way. So, you know, keep that in mind. Speaking of buses, we're coming up on our bus stop here. It's not very big, but gets the job done. This is right by the pathway that'll lead you to Saratoga Springs. We've taken this path multiple times. We love it. It's such a nice walk and not as bad as you probably think. Remember I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Anyway, very, very small bus stop here. It is undercover. We have some light. We have a telephone. And if we look over here, we can see like information about transportation. Now, another little tidbit. When you want to get to the theme parks from Saratoga Springs, of course, you take the bus. We just saw that on that little guide, but you can't take a bus directly to the theme parks from here. Here being the Treehouse Villas, you have to get on a bus, boat, or walk over to the Springs, which is that main area, and then from there, catch a bus, which probably seems like a bigger deal than it actually is. If I'm being completely honest with you, I know. I thought to myself, no way, no possible way. And I mean, I've got some thoughts on whether or not this is a great area, the tree houses specifically, if you want to spend a lot of time in the theme parks. But having done the walk, like I said before, it's not as bad as it seems like it would be. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Anyway, we're coming up not only on our cabin, but the boat transportation. So we're going to take this path. I'll show you what that looks like real quick. So you can see, we've got a little dock here. And this is where we can catch the boat that will take us to the Springs. And ultimately, if memory serves me right, this will take us to Disney Springs as well. So you can see, watercraft service to Disney Springs and Disney Saratoga Springs Resort is the Blue Flag boat. Runs from 10 a.m. I should say, to 10:30 p.m. weather permitting. You know, all the good stuff. Great little mode of transportation here, right from the Treehouse Villas. And I'll tell you what, super convenient. Honestly, from any of the Treehouse Villas, it's not much of a walk around this loop, but from our Treehouse Villa, perfect. Like, I don't know what more you could ask for. We're like 50 steps and one small flight of stairs away from the boat transportation. Just perfect. Perfect if you ask me. About to head back inside, but real quick, take a look at the view from our deck. It's pretty nice. I mean, you're in the trees, you know? I think it's great. Okay, back inside. Let's open up these windows, get some light in here, and wrap things up. All right, our stay is officially coming to a close, and that means we need to talk about what our experience was like. And even though it's just you and me sitting here right now, we really are talking about our experience last night. The Boo Crew was here hanging out with us, me, Russ, all sitting down, discussing what we thought, and that's what I'm going to share with you now. Before we really jump into that though, I just have to take a second and say that it's really important to keep in mind, especially when we are doing reviews, room reviews, resort reviews, reviews that encompass discussion on both, that every resort has its pros and cons. Every resort has its things that are awesome and its things that suck. And here, we believe that you need to hear it all. And we try to communicate to you in as effective a way as we can so that you can prepare. Because if there's one thing that we know, if there's one thing that I know, having worked in this travel space for as many years as I have, it's that, you know, sunshine and rainbows are great, right? But you need to hear the real stuff so that you can set reasonable expectations and prepare accordingly. So that's why we talk about things the way we do and why we give you the information that we give you. Is it always fluffy? Is it always wonderful? No, but you know, it's real. And just like any other resort, any other room, this room had its faults. But it's my job to provide you with as balanced but yet real a perspective as possible, again, so that you have the information you need to prepare accordingly. This room, this treehouse villa, if you will, did have dents and dings. Honestly, I'm really impressed in the lack of dents and dings in this treehouse villa, but you know, you could see that it had been used. It's coming due for refurbishment, and quite frankly, I think that this is what rooms should look like when they come due for refurbishment. You know, like you can see that they've been well loved, but could use a little bit more. So I really can't complain there, though I will note that, you know, every room has dents and dings, but it also had some areas that fell into the realm of unacceptable, if not flat out dangerous. Now, the first that I'll mention, we actually got a chance to check out together when we were doing our check-in day, like quick tour of the room. It's over in the master. It's not well kept up in there. Of course, we do see hard water on all of the faucets and fixtures and everything like that, which again, every single time I mention this, someone's always like, that's a silly thing to complain about. It makes the whole bathroom look grimy and gross. And even though it might not necessarily be gross, it doesn't look good. And it definitely doesn't show that there is attention to detail when cleaning these rooms, which is never a good thing. Now, I'm gonna repeat something I said when we saw this for the first time. Yes, I know it's difficult to keep up with cleaning hard water stains and everything like that. I have lived with hard water. I actually had faucets and whatnot that looked exactly like the ones that are in this bathroom. So I get it. I get it. I also get that it can be handled if you're handling it regularly, which is not happening here in Disney Vacation Club Villas just because of the cleaning schedule. Also, as a bit of a side note, because I did get a question from one of you about this, specifically regarding like whether or not housekeeping is overwhelmed. There's a discussion that can be had there, and we will sit down and talk about that. Okay, so just like make a note, because I have. So we'll revisit this topic and kind of go into it. But Disney Vacation Club's cleaning schedule is definitely not doing housekeepers any favors, especially when we're talking about stuff like this, because the rooms here at Disney Vacation Club Villas are being cleaned, I don't know, like an average of once a week, maybe, just because of the way that the cleaning schedule works in DVC Villas. And if they're not getting a deep cleaning after every guest, which they're clearly not. If they were, then we wouldn't see hard water stains at all. Certainly wouldn't see grime on the shower heads and stuff, but we'll get there. The problems are going to just compound, and that's gonna make it harder to handle them, maybe even get them to the point where they can't be handled at all. And I do think that that's something that's been happening with Disney Vacation Club Villas. Again, more on that some other time. But back to some of the faults in this room. We did see the grime, same type of grime that we saw over at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge on the handheld shower head here, which was very disappointing. Though I do recognize that sometimes things like this happen. I will say, unlike Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, this was just one issue. This was just one area of cleanliness where it like clearly was not clean. We didn't have any other cleanliness issues throughout the room. Like the carpet, even though there's carpet throughout, doesn't smell. It smells nice and clean and fresh in here. So it's night and day, which has me feeling like maybe this was a detail that got missed multiple times, which again, still not acceptable. But looking at the whole picture, this wasn't an unclean room, there was an unclean element, and that is a very different thing, at least in our opinion. But look, another complaint that I have, and this one is right at the top, in fact, it's the thing that I mentioned is just flat out dangerous, is the deck and the stairs leading up to the villa. This deck is in rough shape, and I don't mean aesthetically. I understand, you know, wood is wood and it ages, but there are holes, there are broken boards. I stepped on a broken board yesterday and almost fell through that board. There are also some loose banisters as well. So just overall not safe, in my opinion. Certainly not as safe as it ought to be. Certainly a major problem if we're talking about little ones. Now again, these are due for refurbishment, but this should never have arrived at this point. There should have been better upkeep, there should have been better maintenance, and if it is in such rough shape that it's unsafe, this should not be an available option for guests to stay in. It's just as simple as that, mainly because you don't have the option of not using these stairs and this deck. It's your way in, it's your entryway into the villa, though the deck is on the opposite side, you know, but let's be real here for a second. You got kids, you got 9 people staying in this treehouse. They're gonna be spending at least a couple seconds walking around that deck when you're just trying to get back into the room after a park day. So that's definitely something that I just, again, even with refurbishment right around the corner, I find unacceptable. But that said, there are so many things we loved about staying in the Treehouse Villas. We loved that it felt like a house We loved the layout as well. Everyone could watch TV sitting on a comfortable chair. Everyone could sit down at the table and enjoy a meal. It really felt like a family, homey environment, which is something that we often don't get when you're staying in a Disney Vacation Club villa. Yes, it might be more like a home than a standard hotel room, but this really felt like a home. It felt like family. It felt like togetherness, if that makes any sense. And there was enough space in this room that everyone felt like they had their own place. They could put their things, they could have some privacy. There were 2 bathrooms, which was fantastic because, you know, coming back from the pool, we didn't have to wait and decide who was gonna take a shower first, and then like it's a whole production to get everyone clean and warm. We didn't have to do that. It was just simple, go to your designated space, get yourself squared away, and we're good to go. We also didn't have to deal with that like, are you decent? Can we come in yet? Shuffle that you sometimes have to do, even in 1-bedroom villas. Though there were only 4 of us, it would be a little bit different if you had 9. But again, that's a whole different sack of potatoes. We also found that everything in this room operated perfectly. We didn't run into any issues with things like water pressure, dishwasher, anything like that. Oh, there's also an ice maker in this freezer. So we didn't even have to bother with ice trays or anything. It was just automatic. Bing, bang, boom. Cold drinks. It was wonderful. And I mean, the kitchen in general, right, is a great feature to have in a Disney Vacation Club villa. It's something that you get in a 1-bedroom villa or larger. So it's not a treehouse villa thing, but we did have it in this treehouse villa. And that was great, as was the laundry. So nice to have an in-unit washer and dryer, which is something we were really missing over at the cabins at Fort Wilderness. The newest, like, cabin in the woods, but not in a scary way. I guess it depends on who you ask. Disney Vacation Club property. You know, speaking of the cabins, this is definitely more in line with what Russ had been hoping those new cabins at Fort Wilderness would be. Russ was really wanting that to be a potential go-to place for us, a getaway kind of retreat, DVC option. You can unplug, just kind of enjoy being outside without all the hullabaloo of doing like a camping trip. The long and short of it is that that property did not deliver that for us for a number of reasons, but this property did. And though they are apples to oranges, like point values are different, they sleep a different number of people, this was just a much more relaxed, much more chill, much more enjoyable environment and experience than the cabins at Fort Wilderness. And that's part of the discussion that kept coming up for us throughout this stay. So I did want to mention it to you just briefly. I'm sure that Russ and I can sit down and have a better, more involved conversation about that with you. But of course, he's not here right now. But for now, let's do one last lap of this room because this is such a big place. I don't want to have forgotten anything just because, you know, I didn't bother to look. Now I know you might be wondering, like, why aren't you looking in drawers or like in all of the closets? And that's just because I don't open drawers or closets if I'm doing a short stay. And while this was a longer stay for us, it was more than one night, it wasn't long enough that we needed to use any drawers. And so my method is to just keep all of it shut. That way, there's no way that I put anything in there. So we can just breeze past some of these things, focus our attention on the areas that I know we used, and then from there, we should be good to take off. But all right, I think we should be good. And that means we can head out. I will note, just very briefly, that I did get a knock on my door just a couple minutes ago. It is currently 9:18 a.m. So definitely before checkout time. I will say that at very least, this housekeeper was wonderful. She had towels and coffee in her hands. So I know that she was here to check and see if I was gone so that they can start working on the rooms. But when I opened the door, she said, "Good morning. I just wanted to see if there's anything you needed to get your day started. I have some coffee and towels." And that is the difference, okay? That is how you accomplish your goal, by seeing if the room is empty, but do it in a way that values the customer and puts them first. Now, I've stayed at a lot of places over the years, and I understand what it is that they're trying to do. They're trying to make sure that they can turn over these rooms as quickly as possible, and that's just part of it. But do you see how I'm not annoyed? Do you see how I'm not pissed off? It's very different when they come to the door in the way that this housekeeper did, as opposed to what's happened in the past, where I've had people knock on the door and ask me if I've checked out yet. Because let's not forget, checkout time is at 11. It's not yet 9:30. So I have plenty of time to get myself situated and get myself ready to leave. I don't have to leave yet, although I'm going to anyway because I was ready to leave. But that's what's been lacking recently at Disney. That little ounce of effort. And honestly, I'm so glad that that's how we wrapped up our stay here at Saratoga Springs, because it was a positive stay. I had a great time. And just like everyone else, I want to leave my vacation, no matter how long or short it was, feeling good. I want to feel like, that was great. And that's how I feel leaving the Treehouse Villas here at Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort. And I mean, what more could you ask for? All right, this is officially it. It's officially over. I hope you had fun hanging out with us here at the Treehouse Villas. We had a really great time, like I said, and I will absolutely be staying here again. But of course, we would love to know your thoughts, not only if you've ever stayed here, but just after hanging out with us. Is this a place you would consider if you were planning a Disney vacation, no matter how big your family is, but especially if you have a family of, I don't know, 9? Share all your thoughts with us in a comment down below. And of course, subscribe so that you don't miss any of our other adventures. We have so much on the way and we cannot wait to take you along. But all right, it's time for me to get out of here. Have a fantastic rest of your day and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.